Good morning and welcome to this WEO Wednesday webinar. My name is Kirsten Bayer with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. Today's topic is developing a Wellness Recovery Action Plan, or a WRAP, for work with our presenter, Nanette Larson. Couple of housekeeping things before we get started today. As a reminder, all participants are on listen-only mode on the call. If you have questions as the webinar proceeds, please post your questions in the chat box. It's important to note that this text box might be labeled something different depending on where you're joining us from today. If you're joining us from a tablet, your phone, or your computer, it might be labeled the question box, the comment box, or the chat box. But all of those boxes are synonymous, and it's just a text box that you can type in and conversate with myself and Nanette as the webinar proceeds and ask any questions. Another reminder that this webinar will be recorded, and the presentation recording and any materials presented during today's meeting will be available on our website as well as the Illinois WorkNet website within 48 hours. You can also access the PowerPoint slides for today under the handout dropdown in a PDF format to follow along with today's presentation. Tomorrow, each attendee will receive a follow-up email, which will include a survey asking you about today's webinar. Please provide feedback and any suggestions you have to help improve upcoming webinars. Another reminder that if you have faulty internet connection or would prefer to call in, you can do so by using the phone number in your original registration email and call in using your cell phone. And with that, I'm going to start us off today with our 2 beginning polls that we always like to do for every WEO Wednesday webinar. I'm going to launch the first one, and we just would like to know where you're joining us from today. So where is your local area? I'm going to get everyone a couple seconds to answer this poll. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and share the results. So it looks like we have quite a few people joining us from up north today, and some from Central Illinois as well. So welcome, everyone. Our next beginning poll is just which partner do you best represent? And we do apologize for the limited amount of selections. Our system only allows us 5 options, so if you are joining us from Title IV or any other titles today and you'd like to be more specific, feel free to type those in the chat box to us, and we'll use those for analytical purposes. Okay, I'm going to close that poll and share the results. So we have quite a few of you joining us from Title I today, which is awesome. And quite a couple from our other WEO partners and stakeholders as well. So thank you everyone for doing those quick beginning polls. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to our presenter today, Nanette.
Thank you so much, Kirsten, and good morning, everyone. Kirsten, if you want to go ahead and flip to the next slide there, I'll just take a moment to introduce myself. I promise you, I have not looked that put together since March, before March, but it's always nice to put a face with the voice that you're listening to for an hour or so. So that gives you a glimpse of me. I serve as the Deputy Director for Wellness and Recovery Services in the Department of Human Services Division of Mental Health with the state of Illinois. I have actually worked for the state in the Division of Mental Health for over 20 years. And probably 18 of those years, I have been doing work with Wellness Recovery Action Planning, or WRAP. So I have a great personal passion for helping others learn about WRAP and for just spreading the word, if you will. WRAP is an incredibly helpful, powerful tool for anyone in any situation, and I use it in my personal life every day. So hopefully you will find this presentation to be helpful for you. personally, and then probably something that you can pass along to your children, your siblings, your parents, your friends, the people you work with or supervise. It's just a very useful tool for wellness. So we'll go ahead and talk about the learning objectives for today. We will be able to recognize the top 10 values and ethics of all things related to WRAP programs, learn the foundational principles of wellness, and then we're actually going to begin developing our own personal WRAP for work during today's presentation. So it will be a very interactive presentation. Beyond even just polling, we'll actually encourage you to, when we get there, type your entries, I think, into, Kirsten told me you'll have to use the question box to type your entries, because it's going to be kind of open-ended questions for you to share your input and ideas when we get to that point. You want to go ahead to the next slide? I'll talk a little bit just in general about WRAP before we get into the particulars. So WRAP is an incredibly powerful tool, and it really, in its design, it can help individuals to basically move from a position of passivity in life, where you know, all these stressors and incredibly difficult things are happening to us, and we feel like we have no control, which there's never been a more intense reality of that for any of us than now, with obviously with the pandemic and everything else that's happening globally, to being able to feel more like you're in the driver's seat of your own life, despite the fact that there are all these situations happening around us that are truly out of our control. But with WRAP, we begin to get a sense of empowerment and ability to be more self-directed in our lives and less, if you will, victimized by life circumstances. So let's talk about kind of the general basics, overview of how WRAP works. We'll go to the next slide there, Kirsten. And then we'll get into some of the particulars after that. So WRAP is a self-designed prevention and wellness process. So that's why I said, you know, be ready, be on your toes this morning, be ready to interact, because you're going to write your own plan. You're going, you know, WRAP is not a plan that's written for you. It is a structure. It is a way to organize a plan that you write for yourself. It helps us to, you know, if you will, recover our wellness. So wellness recovery action plan, if you take those 4 words and look at them, you know, from the end, action planning, we are planning action steps in order to recover our wellness. So it's like you take the 4 words and read them backwards. We're planning action steps to recover our wellness. And some of us may say, well, I never did feel well. And so that's okay too, right? Because a WRAP will help us to gain a condition of wellness or a sense of wellness, and then to sustain it over time. And some of us will say, you know, I feel like I do have wellness, and that's awesome too, because WRAP helps you to be proactive in sustaining your wellness over time. So it can be used by anyone, as I've kind of mentioned already. It can be used by anyone in any life circumstance to help us stay well, and to help us really kind of begin to organize our lives in the way that we want them to be. It's very different than goal planning, and you'll begin to get a sense of that soon. It's not about, you know, setting your goals and coming up with action steps toward your goals. It's really about keeping your life on track toward wellness. It has been used by all kinds of people in all kinds of life circumstances, and by mental health as well as health systems all over the world, and it has been studied extensively. The research behind WRAP is very powerful in terms of the impact it can have on people's lives. Next slide, please. So just wait for the slide to shift there. So just to give you a sense, I know I've already said it, but just to give you a sense of what I mean when you can write a RAP to address any aspect of your life, this slide kind of gives you a sense of all aspects of life, right? And so obviously we are in the upper left-hand section there under economic stability and talking about employment and writing a RAP for work today. But you could be writing a RAP for anything. And so I'm hoping that despite the fact that we're going to talk specifically about writing a RAP for work today, staying at our best in our work environment and in the just general sense of work, that you will come away with the structure of RAP so that you can begin to see how you could write a RAP for let's go over to the right-hand column and write a RAP for your health care, or the next one from that over to the left of that for your support system, or for just dealing with, oh my goodness, the bottom of that column, discrimination, which is, one of the biggest social ills of our day, probably always has been, but it's certainly at the forefront of our lives right now. And so, so you could use the structure of RAP to write a plan for maintaining wellness in any of these categories and many, many, many others. Hopefully, it'll come out more clearly as I share some examples as we go forward. Next slide, please. So there is a very current publication that was released probably maybe 3 months ago. I think it came out in April. So they were really Johnny on the spot with getting this out in response to COVID-19. And so this is free for digital download, and that's why I wanted to make sure that you were aware of it, the Wellness Guide to Overcoming Isolation During COVID-19. And, just like everything else with RAP, this wellness guide is a structure. It gives examples, as I will give examples here today, but it's a lot of blank lines where you begin to fill in what works best for you. So RAP is always self-designed and self-guided. It's not a plan that someone else writes for you. So even though this title says a wellness guide, the guide is like guiding you to helping you figure out what your own plan will be. All right, let's go on to the next slide, which is the values and ethics. So all things connected to RAP are based on a very extensive set of values and ethics. I believe there's over 30 specific values and ethics connected to the program. I pulled out what I call the top 10 list and try to always highlight these, because I do encourage people to, spread the word. And when I do that, I'm very cautious, because if you're out there spreading the word, you are also maybe so excited by the end of this 90 minutes that you could be inclined to try to write someone else's plan for them. And so that's not what RAP is about. And so we want to make sure that whenever RAP is presented, that some of the keys to how it works and why it works so well are also presented. So when the studies were conducted on RAP, those studies were conducted with RAP being conducted utilizing the values and ethics of the program. In other words, we don't know that it's going to work so well if it's not done in this manner. So here are the top 10. Number 1, hope. Hope is essential for recovery. Everything about RAP is about hope. It's about a yes, you can spirit. I used to joke back in the Obama days that RAP was saying yes, you can long before the Obama campaign came up with yes, you can. And it's always about saying anything's possible. And you can see that with number 2, there are no limits to recovery. It's about constantly encouraging a person or encouraging yourself that any limits that I am perceiving are limits that someone else has put on me or that I'm putting on myself. But with RAP, there are no limits. I can believe for a better life. And WRAP is about wellness, and so it's about a better life. I can believe for a better life for myself. And if I'm going to support another person in them developing their WRAP plan, I am going to commit myself to believing for a better life for them, and commit myself to stopping myself from saying but, right? You know, I know you can get better, but is how we tend to be with people we care about, and we're putting limits on them that are just unnecessary and unhelpful. You know, one of the things in the WRAP curriculum, it says, we do not benefit from dire predictions. And I think the first time I read that, I said, amen. I'm so tired of people putting dire predictions on my life. It has been of no help to me whatsoever. And so WRAP is all about hope. It's all about no limits, that I benefit from people believing in me. I benefit from believing in myself and having hope for a better future, and not putting limits on what that could be or what it could look like. Number 3, all participation is voluntary. And so voluntary means that I get to decide what goes in my plan. I get to decide how I write my plan, or if I write it or not. I may not even want to use a pen or a computer. I may just want to put it in my brain. And so that's my choice. Everything about WRAP is my choice. I get to decide whether I tell anybody about it, you know, whether I show it to anybody. And you say, well, what about if I'm trying to work with this with my teenager? It's their choice. They don't have to tell you a thing. And that's part of why WRAP is so effective with young people, is because it allows them to work toward wellness without being confined to what you have to do, or what, you know, somebody else is telling you have to do or can't do or can do. And that connects right there with number 4, personal choice is valued. We constantly encourage ourselves and others that there are always choices and options. There are always choices and options, you know, and try to move away from this natural tendency to tell people what to do, to use, you know, using words like you should, you have to, you need to. That's like cussing in WRAP, you know, it's like really bad words. Like, no, you could, you might, you know, and so telling ourselves you should, you have to, you need to is also not particularly helpful. We tend to rebel against ourselves. And so to defeat that natural self-rebellion or rebellious spirit, by saying I could, then I'm in this situation of choosing. I'm like, oh, well, I could. I guess maybe now I realize I kind of want to, you know, instead of hearing myself tell myself I should, and then I just feel like I'm a bad person because I'm not choosing the right thing, and I don't want to do it anyway, and then I'm just self-defeating. It goes round and round and round. So it's just a radical shift by putting a choice, right? Language of choice. You could, you might, instead of you should, you have to, you need to. And that's in the way we talk to ourselves. That's the way, of course, if we're communicating anything about WRAP, that we talk to others. Number 5, focus on simple, safe, and common sense options. I think one of my favorite things about WRAP is it's so simple. It is not complicated. It is not complicated at all. And like once we get into the meat of this, you will see what I'm talking about. It's just really basic, common sense stuff, but it's the way it's organized that gives it its power. It takes the things that we already knew and puts it into a structure that can help us radically change our lives. Number 6, remain focused on strengths and away from deficits. You know, we do not overcome our life challenges by knowing what our problems are and what's wrong with us. We overcome our life challenges by knowing what our strengths are and how we can use those strengths to overcome our life challenges. And yet, so many approaches, treatment system, healthcare system, all these kinds of ways of parenting tend to focus on what's wrong with us, and they don't help us to figure out what's strong in us. So we have this motto, focus on what's strong, not what's wrong. Focus on what's strong, not what's wrong. And so just trying to steer away from all this overemphasis on what, you know, I have this problem, I have this problem, I have this problem. Yeah, okay, well, You know, what's your action plan? What are your strengths and how can you use them to overcome that challenge? All right, number 7, diverse experiences are validated. Every single one of us has been through something different. And so, you know, rather than trying to say, well, yeah, this is my experience, we just listen and hear and validate what the other person's experience is. Now, when you're talking about yourself, that is also true, right? So it's the ability to begin to validate your own life journey, which may be different, and it is really, every one of us is different. So validating your own life journey, which is probably different from anyone around you, and being able to say, you know, that's okay. My life journey has been different, but this has been my experience. Number 8, unconditionally accepting one another. So that's a very high bar. You know, like I'm a dog lover, and I think the only real unconditional love comes from dogs. You know, like they just don't really mind too much what you do, you know, what you say, what you look like. They just love you, wag their tails, you know, want to be pet. You know, but it is certainly the goal in WRAP is that we just show an unconditional acceptance, not only of others, but of ourselves. And that's the thing, is that we tend to maybe even, you know, strive for these kinds of ideals in our lives, in our relationships, but then we never turn and say, I need to treat myself in the same manner. Like, do I unconditionally accept myself, or am I constantly in a state of judgment against myself? Well, if I'm constantly in a state of judgment against myself, it is probably self-defeating. It is not helping me get where I'm wanting to go in life. Number 9, WRAP is based on mutual equality, dignity, compassion, and respect for all. And so again, it's a high ideal in certainly in the society we are currently living in. And yet I think the one word I didn't put in purple that is so significant is mutual. Is that, you know, there's in WRAP, there's nobody who's higher than somebody else. You know, just because I've been doing WRAP for 20 years doesn't mean that makes me better than or anything. It's mutual. So even in today's presentation, and every single time I present on WRAP, I'm learning and growing too. And then number 10, WRAP is adaptable to anyone's personal philosophy. So whatever you bring with you to the table in terms of your personal belief systems, your personal philosophies, or way of living, it's all still, you know, this is not like a new philosophy. It's just a structure for you to organize your life. And so whatever your personal philosophies, belief systems might be, those just easily unfold into what you're going to be learning today. So we are going to do a little poll question here on the values and ethics. I'm going to ask you to identify which of the values and ethics stands out to you the most. And so there's only 5 listed out of the 10 because the system only allows us to set up 5 choices. So out of the 5 that are listed there, select which one of those stands out to you the most.
Okay, we're going to give everyone about 30 more seconds to answer this poll. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results.
Okay, super. This is kind of fun for me. I've not used a web system to present where I was given option to give polling, so it's just neat to see your responses here. So 34% of you say that hope is essential for recovery stands out the most. And then the second highest is that there are no limits. And those two really go together. So I think that's really cool that those two stood out so high. And then number 3 is the personal choice. Give each other choices and options. Personal choice is valued. So excellent. Thank you all for your participation there. So we're going to move from the values and ethics now to the foundational principles. So we'll go to that slide and look at, now there's 6 foundational principles. So we did a top 10 list on the values and ethics, and now we're going to look at 6 foundational principles. And since there are 6 of these, and the polling system only allows for 5, when we get to the questions, we're not going to use a polling system. We're going to use the open-ended responses. Okay, so the 6 foundational principles, again, much like the values and ethics, are key to the program. If you think about a foundation of a house, right? If you don't have a good foundation built first, then the house is always on shaky ground, and there's going to be cracks in the walls and the ceilings, and all kinds of bad things can happen. And so that's why we take the time to make sure that we lay a good foundation before we dive into the specifics of actually writing a rap. All right, so the foundational principles start with hope. Guess what, right? So that was number 1 on the top 10 list of values and ethics, and then you see it again here in the foundational principles. So hope is described or defined in this manner. First, believe you can, then set goals, then keep believing, right? And so you might notice something distinct here is that you gotta start with believing you can. And so many times, particularly in any kind of a program or system or anything you look up online about achieving your goals, it just starts with the goal. It doesn't ever address the fact that deep down inside, you may very well not yet believe you can achieve the darn thing. And so you're almost stepping out into this space in your life called a goal that I'm not going to say it's destined to fail, but it's a high risk situation because you haven't really addressed the fact that you may or may not yet believe that you can achieve this thing that you're after. And so that's why hope in RAP always starts with the condition of belief. Like where in your mind, in your heart, in the depth of your being, are there issues that need to be addressed related to this thing that you're after? Do you believe you can get well? Do you believe that your work life can be better? Do you believe your family life can be better? Do you believe that, I've written a rap for a relation with my mom, which has been a lifelong challenge. Do I believe that it can get better? And you say, well, how do I deal with the fact that I don't? Well, I begin by saying, I'm just going to declare I believe. And so it's beginning to kind of fight with yourself over believing instead of just trying to jump into goal setting where you already have this kind of negative spirit, if you will, about yourself that you don't even believe it's going to happen anyway. Okay, I'm going to work on this, but in the end, I'm pretty sure it's going to fail, right? Well, you're setting yourself up. It probably is going to fail. It's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so in RAP, we're constantly encouraging ourselves and others to start with believing. Start with believing. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, you can. That's why I said we already had that before Obama ever started talking about yes, you can, right? And so first believe you can, then set the goal, and then keep believing. So then kind of corollary to that is the principle of spirituality. Now, spirituality can mean a whole lot of things to a whole lot of different people, but in RAP, it has a very clear, distinct definition, if you will. It's about that thing that gives you meaning and purpose. And so, I've joked a lot over the years that, man, those words, meaning and purpose, that's like deep. Like if you don't already have that figured out, you probably feel like you need to take like a sabbatical to go figure that out, right? That's why I like that it says there, identify what matters to you the most, right? Because that's a lot easier language than meaning and purpose, right? But I think all of us can quickly respond to the question, what matters to you the most? And I've asked the question hundreds of times in hundreds of audiences over the years, and the majority of people say something about their family. And so just identifying that thing that matters to you the most, the thing that gives your life meaning and purpose. It may not be related to your faith. For me, it is. It's 100% related to my faith. But for a lot of people, it's not, and that's okay. Why is that important? Because that's the driver. When we set a goal and we don't know the thing in our life that matters most, it's easy to just drop the ball, right? And so I just give the example of a person writing a rap for good nutrition, i.e. weight loss, right? But those are goals that people drop easily because a very hard one to work on in terms of wellness. But when the person identifies what matters to them to the most, and it's my family, I want to stay well and healthy for a long life because my family matters, then the goal has a passionate driver behind it. That's why this spirituality, or this thing that matters most, what gives your life meaning and purpose, is so critical and connected to hope and believe. I believe I can because I have this passionate driver behind me. And so for me, like I said, that is my faith. And I would have given up on a whole lot of wellness living a long, long time ago if I didn't have a passion for continuing to live my life for the Lord. Okay, so then the third one is personal responsibility, taking action toward the goals you set and making good choices. And so you see that I've got them kind of color-coded a little bit, like we've got hope and spirituality are kind of paired up, and then we've got personal responsibility and support are paired up. And so the reason why that is because we tend to be people who go to extremes with this personal responsibility and support. We either tend to be on the far end of, I make my own choices, I'm my own person, I'm completely independent, or we go towards the extreme of I'm constantly leaning on others, my social system is my life. Without the support of others, I would die. And so the objective with those two is to keep those two in a very healthy balance, to constantly be responsible for my own choices, but at the same time, be willing to receive input from others, be willing to lean on others for just, encouragement, and also allowing others into that space in our life that they are able to keep us accountable to the things we say we want to do and to achieve. This morning I drove through the neighborhood Starbucks, and the lady that handed me my drink asked me how it was going with my book that I'm writing. That's a little nudge of accountability. And I didn't really think of it that way till I was just reading this slide right now. It's like she's an extended part of my support system that's helping me stay accountable for a goal that I'm working on. And so do we let people into our lives, into that space where they're like, yeah, well, so how's that working out for you? You said you were going to, stop smoking, or you said what's up with that donut in your hand? I thought you were working on this nutrition plan or what have you. Okay, so then we have education and self-advocacy. Education in this RAP program or RAP line of thinking is about getting good information to help you make good choices. So it's not about going back to school. It's not about, anything that's a structured education. It's really about information. And we are truly unable to make good choices if we don't have good information. Good information drives good choices. It wasn't that long ago that I believe it was a government decision that required all the restaurants to begin publishing the calorie count on the menus. And so before that, none of us had any good information. So we were opening menus or we were walking up to a menu board to order a meal, and we were just ordering based on, kind of a general sense of what's good for you and what's bad for you. And most of the time making some pretty bad decisions, but we didn't have any good information. Now it's very transparent. order this triple pounder with cheese and you will die. Like the information is right in front of us. And so we are more able to make good decisions. Doesn't mean we're making good decisions. It just means that we are now in a position where we can make a good decision. Whereas before, we really didn't know exactly what we were doing. I've been a healthy eater almost pretty much my whole life. And I always was assuming that by ordering a salad, I was making a good decision. And when they started to publish the calorie counts in the menus, I discovered that oftentimes the salad was a higher calorie count than a burger. And that was just shocking to me, And so, again, it's like you can't make a good decision without good information. And so that was new information for me. And it was, a new driver for making a choice. All right, so the last one, self-advocacy. Again, the term, like education, the term, I think is a little misleading, but the general concept behind this is just being able to communicating effectively, being able to, shift gears in different situations so that you can get your needs met. And self-advocacy, I think, is a skill set that is not taught in our families, in our schools, in terms of effective communication. I'll just shift it to that. Effective communication is not very well taught in our families, in our schools, etc., helping us learn how to communicate in a way that helps us to get our needs met. We're not even really taught that it's okay to get our needs met. And so, now we kind of see the extreme outcome of that because we have just this rage, this evidence of rage in our communities that it is like a real need that needs to be addressed and met, but it's being handled with such outrageous extreme methods. And so, like with WRAP, we are striving to learn how to communicate in a way that's going to be helpful and is going to achieve the end goal. Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide, and I'm going to ask you a question here. So which of the foundational principles are you most familiar with? Out of these 6 things, which are you most familiar with, or do you feel that you already use most frequently in your life? And I believe, Kirsten, you'll have to clarify which way that they can respond to this and how they will enter their responses.
You can type your responses in the question box. It might be labeled chat or text box as well. And then I will facilitate them as they come in.
Thank
So
you.
we'll give everyone like a minute and a half.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm seeing some answers come through. So we had spirituality a couple times, education, spirituality, support and education, and spirituality as well. So we're having some more come through. We had someone answer hope and hope that you can set goals and keep believing for so number 1. Hope, spirituality, personal responsibility. Another one came in for spirituality. Education is the principle that this person is most familiar with, and she would like to be better with hope.
Yeah.
Someone answer most familiar with personal responsibility, but realize spirituality and self-advocacy are the most important.
Wow.
Okay, those are all I see coming through right now, Nanette. Is that okay, or you want to give some people a couple more seconds?
No, that's awesome. Why don't we go ahead and move to the next one, because I'm going to ask on the next slide, which of the foundational principles are you least familiar with, or do you feel like you use the least in your life? So some of you already were kind of moving in that direction in your responses the first time. So let's get a feel for that.
Self-advocacy. Someone put self-advocacy they're the least familiar with. Someone put education they're least familiar with. Someone answer that they are familiar with all of them. So there's none that they're not familiar with.
Okay.
Someone said they're least familiar with hope. Someone
Wow.
said least familiar with personal responsibility as they are not a good goal setter. Least familiar with education came through. Least familiar with self-advocacy. Support, least familiar. She said support, she is least familiar with, and she's learning to do better with leaning on others, trying to.
Yeah, that's good.
Least familiar with self-advocacy again. So thank you everyone for that amazing feedback in the chat box.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. This is doing great. It's good to get a feel for where people are at, and it doesn't surprise me at all as far as the kind of self-advocacy being on the high mark of least familiar, because I feel like that's very common. I'm really surprised and kind of energized by spirituality being on the high mark of being most familiar, so that's encouraging. Okay, so we're getting down to the meat of it. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide there, Kirsten. And this is where we actually begin to develop a wrap. So, we are, of course, going to use the chat so you can enter your responses. And really, part of the benefits of wrap is the mutual aspect. So people benefit from hearing your thoughts. I benefit from hearing your thoughts. And, so that's kind of how we figure out, well, I could put that in my wrap, but at the same time, I encourage you to maybe even have a pen and paper handy so that you can jot these things down, because you're basically beginning to write your own personal wrap, and it's something you can have and have as a takeaway from this training here today. Okay, so the very first step in writing a wrap is to develop the wellness toolbox, And so in developing the wellness toolbox, you're basically developing a list of things that you can do anytime, anywhere. Well, those are the ideals, right? Anytime, anywhere. But, just a simple, safe, and, low cost suggestions that you can do to help yourself feel better, feel well, stay at your best, those kinds of ideas. And so when writing a wrap for work and putting our emphasis on work, we have some targeted questions. What things do you already do to help yourself stay at your best throughout your work day? For me, I'll give you some examples. I'm in a remote work lifestyle now since March. I've been at home, and you know, one of the things that I do now is I play music anytime I'm not in a meeting or on a phone call. You know, that's just been a new wellness tool for me, is that, wow, I have the freedom to have music on. Like anytime I'm not talking or listening to somebody, it's just a gift. And so it's one of my new wellness tools for work. Um, and then the second question, what things do you do on your off time that contribute to your being at your best during your work time? And so, um, you know, for me, definitely one of the things I do on my off time that helps me to be my best at my work time is getting outside, getting out of the house, right? Because I'm in the house all day long for work. And so just literally getting out of the house. I have made a point of leaving my house every single day because I can get stir crazy from being inside my home. And so, and then of course, another question that we can ask ourselves, is there something new that we might want to try that we hadn't really considered before today? And so you can respond to any of these three questions in the chat, but this is the beginning of the development of your wellness toolbox.
I'm moderating the responses, Nanette. I don't see anything coming through quite yet, but we'll give everyone some time to really think about this one, okay?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I'll give you some more, I'll give you some more just, again, thoughts from my own experience, right? I mean, because this is not complicated. So, when we think about the first question, it's probably the easiest one. What do you already do, right? You probably already do things like, well, to help yourself stay at your best during the workday. You have little things in, just in place in your general life, like, I know I wouldn't be doing well if I didn't do such and such. I got to have my coffee. I got to have my water. I got to talk to, Bill. If I don't talk to Bill, I'm not doing well. You know what I'm saying? It's like just general things that you're already doing. So the point of WRAP is to get those things into a structure. So step one of that structure is to say, okay, what am I already doing? That helps me get through the workday and make that day the best day it can be, even under our current circumstances. So, like I said, one of my new ones is listening to music. I also know, like for me, I've always had to constantly drink water. I have like a 64-ounce water thing that I have at my side at all times. So that's one of my wellness tools. Taking breaks from my computer, because I'm a desk worker, and so taking breaks is a wellness tool. I'm trying to think of some of the things that just because it's so natural to me, it's hard sometimes to think of them on the spot, but they're talking to a friend. I do try to connect with a friend throughout the day so that I'm not just kind of in this isolated world, because I live at home alone. I'm in a remote work situation, so I could be in a very kind of bizarre headspace if I don't connect with somebody. So those are examples.
Okay, some feedback's coming through. To stay at her best, Stephanie meditates, breathes, and prayer. Ellen says in the future, she needs to incorporate times to step away from the computer. We had someone say maintain the same routine as usual, create different things to do different after the workday. Michelle says she likes to take short breaks and walk away from the computer. Check on coworkers, even though they might not be in the office with me since we're working from home. Stephanie said off time. Sit in my backyard and be still, breathe, have a glass of wine.
Yeah,
I'm right
good.
there. Yes, Stephanie. Um, Hilda said she likes to garden. Sandra says throughout the workday, I like a cup of tea and I try to talk with my coworkers. Hilda says she meditates on a daily basis. Jacqueline says things I already do is take breaks. During off time, she watches TV and shops online. New things to try is to get an elliptical machine to get more exercise. She likes to take breaks throughout the day and always stops for lunch. And she checks in with her siblings every day. We also have wellness tools. Janice said she likes to use music and short breaks to get outside. Always checks in with her coworkers since we are working remotely. Beatrice says she likes to look out the window at her garden. And that's all we have coming through right now.
Those are great. Those are great. Those are great examples. Perfect. So you're getting the general idea, right? And the wellness tools or the wellness toolbox is, beginning to build your wrap. It's beginning to kind of, okay, that, like I didn't realize it. I already have things that I do. And by making myself more
Nanette?
aware. Go ahead. Yeah, by making myself more aware of those things that I'm already doing, I can begin
Nanette,
to
we lost you. Hold on
so
a
I
second,
haven't.
everyone.
Hello. Oh boy. Hello. I can hear you. You still can't hear me?
Okay, I apologize, everyone. I'm not able to hear Nanette any longer, but if I do see that our attendees can hear Nanette, and Nanette, you can hear me. So, Nanette, you can continue, and I will try to troubleshoot this issue.
Okay, so that's like super weird. So Kirsten says you all can hear me, but she can't hear me. Oh my goodness. Okay, so now we're like flowing in the dark. So I now need a wellness tool right now, right? So this is a great moment of like in moment explanation, because this is like taking wrap into the moment, so like right now, this is instead of what would more commonly happen just in just normal everybody, right, is that you would panic right now, is that, well, I have wellness tools, right? And so I can take a deep breath, I can take a drink of water, I can give myself positive self-talk, like tell myself it's going to be okay. Even if the whole program stops right now, I've already done good work and people have learned lots of neat things, and so and so it's an interesting, like almost in the moment show of how wrap can help, like because like I can use those wellness tools in the moment because I've like, to me it's like the whole system of wrap is completely internalized, and so now I know, like when I have something happen, right, which we will call a stressor when we get to that point in this training, you'll see we just call those stressors. But when you have a stressor occur, you have action plans for those stressors, and your action plans come right out of your wellness toolbox. Okay, so Kirsten cannot hear me, so she just changed the slide, and that's perfect. So that's helpful actually, because I need to move on. And so we're going to go to the next the next part of WRAP. So the next thing that we do in WRAP is that we identify, this is a tough part, we identify for ourselves what we are like at our best. What am I like at my best? And I say this is a tough part because most of us don't really think about what we're like at our best. We've also probably not maybe ever been asked, what are you like when you're at your best? And so it takes a little bit of thinking, and you may not be able to, give your examples yet today, and that's okay. But hopefully you'll get the general idea. So some questions that are helpful in people being able to fill out this section is, how would other people describe you? Or how would you describe yourself when you are at your best at work? That's because we're writing a WRAP for work today. So that's why it says at work, okay? Or how would you like to be? And so like for me, me at my best at work is focused, right? So focused, productive. So that'd be another adjective that I would use: productive, focused, productive. I would say, energized for what I do, the work that I do, the tasks that are on, believe it or not, yes, the tasks that are on my list for the day. I actually like my work. And so me at my best at work is energized and positive. I feel good about my work and I like my work. So when I'm at my best, I tend to have a positive, upbeat spirit. So those are some adjectives that I would use about myself when I'm at my best. And so we're going to give it a shot. We're going to see if you all can give us some adjectives about yourself when you're at your best at work. I'm telling Kirsten that I'm asking you all for input. So you can enter your feedback as you did on the previous slides using the question or the chat bar, and we'll see if she's able to read us your input. Okay. So Kirsten, I think Kirsten is telling me she can actually hear me now. And do we have some input on this slide about how you would describe yourself at your best at work?
Nanette, can you hear me?
That was pretty bad.
Nanette, can you hear me?
There, I can hear you, yes.
Okay. I had to call in, but I still have full control on my computer, so no big deal. The closed captioning might be not at its best for the rest of the webinar, so we do apologize for that. But I do see the feedback coming for number 2. Would you like me to moderate that?
Yes, please, that would be awesome.
Okay. We had Michelle say organized, Janice say best at work, energetic and engaged, organized, expressive, detailed, Gloria, highly motivated, excited to assist. Jacqueline said, others describe me as spiritual, positive attitude. Describe myself, or how she would describe herself, is dependable, encouraging, and she would like to be more organized. Stephanie says that she would have others describe her as focused, productive, and uninterrupted. Sandra says she is focused and organized. Beatrice says she is detail-oriented, proactive, and problem solver.
Nice.
And I do apologize to everyone. It looks like we won't be able to do the closed captioning for Usenet anymore unless my computer microphone comes back in. I'm not sure what the issue is, but we will continue the webinar. And for anyone that needs the live closed captioning, it will be available on our YouTube channel when this webinar is recorded and put up on Friday. So we apologize for having to do that workaround for you today.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, you know, this is well, and I'm seeing closed captioning showing up on my screen, so it may be picking me up. So we're going to go ahead and go to part 3, to the next slide there, Kirsten. So part 3 in your wrap is to write a daily plan. And so your daily plan is designed to keep you at your best, right? So part 2, you identified what you're like at your best. And part 3 is the things that you need to do every day to stay at your best, every day. So these might be things that you already put in your wellness toolbox, but they're like the top critical items that if you did not do them, you're probably like, you got a hole in the bucket, if you know what I mean. Like, you know, like if you did not, you know, like for me, it's the drinking water. I have to drink water all day, every day. And if I don't, then I become limp and I start to lose my focus. I start to lose my energy. It's just critical for me to stay hydrated. And so that for me is part of my daily plan. It's not just a wellness tool, like it helps and it's nice to lean on when I need it. It's a critical item. It's my daily plan. It's a must do kind of item. So that's what you're putting in your daily plan is what do you need to do every day to stay at your best at work? What things do you need to include in a typical workday to keep yourself at your best? And what would you do and when would you do it? So the last question, the what would you do and when would you do it, is kind of the taking it from the what and putting it into like an action plan, basically. Like, okay, so I know I need to drink water. So for me, here's how I've planned that out. I've got it organized down to, I got the 64 ounce, jug thing here that I drink from, and I make sure I fill it up before I start my work day. I bring it here to my home computer and I set it next to me. And the objective for me is to have that drunk by time I have lunch. And then after I have lunch, I fill it a second time. And the objective is to have that second time drank by the time I end my workday. So you say, whoa, that's a whole lot of water. Yeah, it is. But that's my wellness plan. So, you know, doesn't have to be yours, and I'm not putting it on anybody else. Everything is choices and options. But for me, that's my wellness plan. So it gives you an example of the what would you do and when would you do it. So what, and we usually say three to five for your daily plan. Pick the top 3 or 3 to 5 things that you need to do every day. So let's get some input on your daily plan. And again, these could be repeats from your wellness toolbox, but they're the key items that are essential for your wellness.
Okay, I'm giving everyone a couple minutes to give their feedback, okay?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so it looks like Sandra said a large cup of tea first thing in the morning and a to-do list. Stephanie said to stay my best, she meditates, breathes, and walks in the morning. We had Rodner. I apologize if you couldn't hear me. But we had Rodner say that he takes allergy pill, vitamins, and calm tea. Beatrice said, I start every day with morning devotion, review my schedule, and plan how to get things done. Michelle said, good night's sleep, prepare the night before for the next day. Stephanie said, drink plenty of water. Jacqueline said, start day with breakfast, include large cup of coffee, have everything needed at computer desk, and take breaks.
Nice. Good. You've totally got the idea. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. I think we got a slightly behind with the computer technical challenges that we had. So I'm not going to try to rush, but at the same time, I don't want you all to miss out on getting the whole of the wrap. There's 7 parts total, so we're up to number 4. And I was not really planning to. Oh, there's 8 parts total, excuse me. 7 and 8 I was planning to do super fast. So for 4, 5, and 6, we're going to do the engagement. So we'll make sure we get through 4, 5, and 6 for sure in the time we have allotted. All right. So number 4 is stressors, which, hello, probably are very familiar with this and probably think, well, that's easy and I can identify those in a heartbeat, right? And that's probably true. The difficulty is that we identify our stressors very easily, but we have not planned for them. This is where the kind of, if you will, passivity in life comes in, or the stance of being a victim to the stressors of life can come in without a plan, without an action plan. You see at the bottom of the slide I have there, RAP isn't RAP without the app, and the app, of course, is the action plan. And so when we're identifying stressors, we really try to identify only one stressor, not a long list of them, but one stressor with an action plan before we move on to the next one. Because actually it can be very stressful to list a long list of stressors. We can shift ourselves into a very stressful state of mind by listing out all the things that might happen that would make us feel stressed out. We could be instantly stressed out by making that list. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is identify one stressor that could happen, right? Event or circumstance that might make you feel unwell or throw you off track if it happens during your workday. And then with it, you're going to identify what actions you could take or what wellness tools you could use to respond if that did happen, right? So you also can use ways to limit your exposure to a stressor, so avoidance is a great one. That's one way that's an action plan. Avoidance can be an action plan. But so I'll give you an example, right? So obviously computer technical challenges is a major stressor for someone who lives a remote work and a desk job. And that is me, and it sounds like it may be some of you who are participating in this training today. And so my action plan for computer-related technical challenges is, and I mentioned this earlier, deep breathing, drink water, and positive self-talk. This is temporary. This too will pass. This will get fixed. There are people working on the problem, or I have already sent a tech note requesting help with the problem. There's nothing more than I can do about it. I'll work on something else, right? So instead of just beating myself up mentally, emotionally with the stress of the problem all the way until it gets fixed, I tell myself things that get me through that moment in a very peaceful way. I do not get stressed by computer problems. Every person I supervise does. And it's sad to me because every person I supervise is a RAP trainer. So they know how to use RAP. But it's like when it comes to computer problems, it's like no application of WRAP. And I try constantly to say, what wellness tools can you use when the computer is not working? Because it's kind of part of our daily lives right now. And so that's an example of a stressor is technical challenges and an action plan. So for action plans, we always say you must have at least 2 choices, because you need a backup if your first choice is not available or it's not an option under these circumstances. So for your input in the chat box, you want to identify 1 stressor and at least 2 action items you could use in response to that.
Okay, I'm going to give everyone a couple minutes to answer this one. We did have some more feedback coming from the last slide, though, so I'm going to read over those. We had Brittany answer for the last part of her wrap that says, I need a coffee by 10 a.m. and a quiet workspace to start the day. And Brittany said that temperature control in her office is important to her. And then Janice wrote out her daily plan, and it says, stay hydrated, take breaks, and look over her schedule and tell herself she can do it. And then we had some feedback already for number 4, stressors. So Brittany said, when I come into the office with my daily workload and have a last minute project / assignment due the same day, that's a stressor for her. And Jacqueline said, unplanned meetings and last minute deadlines stress her out. And her action plan for that is to take a deep breath, stay calm, prioritize, and just take it 1 task at a time.
Nice.
Rodner says the use of his internet not working is a stressor for him. And Janice said stressors, remind myself that it is not the end of the world if my boss neglects to tell me about a mandatory meeting. That is her lack of communication / planning. Using positive self-talk, I am not the only one. I will adjust and do my best regardless. Remind myself I was not the only one surprised and I'm not alone with her for a surprise mandatory meeting.
Those are great.
Beatrice says, too many assignments in one day. I give myself a pep talk and prioritize. Michelle says, last minute reports, meetings. Her plan is to breathe, talk with coworkers. And then Brittany said, to make it better, I take each task 1 by 1, prioritizing what's most important while pacing myself for a successful outcome. And that's
Those
all the feedback
awesome.
we have.
Yeah, and you know what? And that shows me that a lot of people had a lot more wellness tools than they realized. And so, you know, your action items that you identified here with the stressors are also things you can go back and put in your wellness toolbox. Because some of those things, right, that you've listed here for your stressors are like, wow, okay, I can add that to my wellness toolbox because I might want to use it for another stressor or another part of my wrap. And so those are really, really excellent examples. So let's go to part 5. Okay, so part 5 is early warning signs. So early warning signs are things that tell us that we're not at our best, right? And these are things that only you know. Like people around you, like I know a lot of us are not around people right now, but you know, like people around us, if they were around us, would not know that these things are happening. These are, you know, you might say they're internal, right? They're thoughts, feelings, and sensations. So nobody knows what I'm thinking. Nobody knows what I'm feeling. Nobody knows what my body is feeling like, you know, as far as like pins and needles or, you know, sweaty or whatever it might be. Only I know those things. And so that's what we call early warning signs in WRAP. And these are the indicators that are beginning to communicate to me that I'm not exactly at my best, right? And so The goal in WRAP is to identify the earliest signs so that we can jump on top of them quickly with an action plan and intervene. And so ideally get ourselves back to a better state and closest as we can back to our best state. And so again, I use this kind of rhythm of identify and plan, identify and plan, identify and plan, right? So we identified our stressors and plan for our stressors. We identify our early warning signs and plan for our early warning signs. So what would be? I give you one of my examples, right? One of my early warning signs is negative thoughts about my job. I don't like this job. I really don't want to do this job. Like those they're huge signs in my brain telling me that I need to take action quickly, because otherwise I'm going to start having outward signs that people do notice. Actually, I do love my job. I've had this job for 20 years and I love my job. So those things are not true, but they're signs that I'm getting overly stressed or overtaxed or, burnt out or whatever it may be. So that's an example of an early warning sign for me, is any kind of self-talk that I'm saying like, man, I need to move on. I need to get another job, or I don't like this job anymore. Somebody else should do this. That's a big, huge red flag. So, my action plan when I begin to have that kind of chatter in my head is to really honestly look at what I've committed myself to, because I do have a lot of freedom in my work choices. And, I love doing these kinds of presentations like I'm doing right now, but I have choice, to commit myself to this stuff or not. And so I begin to look at what did I commit myself to versus what I've been told I have to get done, and start to pull back on the things that I have choice about pulling back on. So what would be an early warning sign for you, a thought, feeling, or sensation, and what might be your action plan when you begin to notice it?
Okay, I'm giving everyone a couple minutes to answer this one. Okay. Okay, we have feedback coming in. Jacqueline says her warning signs are feeling tired due to not getting proper sleep, makes my thinking not be as sharp, and her action plan is make sure I'm getting proper rest on a consistent basis. Michelle said her early warning signs is when she wants to say I'm going to retire tomorrow, but her action plan is to remember that she really does enjoy her work. Sheila says her early warning signs are insomnia. Beatrice says her early warning signs are problems concentrating, feeling of being overwhelmed. Her action plan is she talks to God and her coworkers about it to kind of talk it out. And Brittany said her early warning signs are when she wakes up and realizes she did not have enough sleep, then going into work and moving slow, my mind is not at its best. That's all we have coming in right now. Some more people might be typing though.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to number 6. And if people are still typing on number 5, we can catch up with those. But 11:23, I think we probably should go ahead and shift to number 6. Okay, so part 6 is things are breaking down, like that car on the roadside there. Um, when things are breaking down are the signs that someone else is going to notice, right? So the early warning signs, only I notice those. The things are breaking down signs are the things that people around me are going to pick up on. Maybe they've mentioned it to me before. Maybe they've mentioned it to you before. Oh my gosh, you're like really snappy, like things that are just, they're different from what you put in number 2, what you're like when you're at your best, that people notice, right? So in part 5, it's things that I notice about myself. I'm just not as sharp as I'm usually. I'm not as focused as I'm usually. But in part 6, these are things that others around me notice. It might be a change in my tone of voice or my patience level with others, or my depends on what other, right? Your work setting will depend on what others are going to notice about you, right? So the signs that other people notice, and then of course your action plan. RAP is all about action planning. And so with the things breaking down signs, the action planning in this section, it is an action plan that you might want to consider sharing with others, right? Because since other people are noticing these signs, then again, RAP is all voluntary. So it's not saying that you should or you need to or you must, but it's just saying that your supporters can help you follow through on the things that you say would be helpful if they know. Like if you see me getting really irritable and short-tempered, my action plan for that is whatever it is, and then you tell someone that you trust so that they can remind you. It seems like you're getting a little irritable. Didn't you tell me that your action plan was blah, 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 right? And so this is an example of where sharing your RAP or a section of your RAP with others may be a choice that you might want to make for yourself because they could be helpful when you get to this point. Okay, so what is one of my breaking down signs? That's always fun, right? Self-disclosure. I've been doing it the whole time, but right, it gets a little like wow at this stage. But I had one of my colleagues call me up. I think it was maybe near the end of last week, and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Uh-oh, what did I do?" My biggest fear is that I sent an email that went to the world and it was not good or something. And she's like, "Nothing. You just haven't sounded like yourself." And I said, "Tell me what you're picking up on." And she said, "I can hear it in your voice. Your energy is really, really low, and you're just not coming across like yourself." So like a sign that she picked up on was my tone of voice was missing its usual kind of positive ring and energy. And she knows me well enough to know that that was some kind of a sign. And I began to share with her, the stressors that I'm dealing with in my work world. And, she's like, sometimes you just need to unload some of that stuff, and I hadn't really told anybody. And so I realized that probably should go in my RAP, is that, someone else might notice that my tone of voice just changes dramatically when I'm overdone, when things are breaking down, so to speak. And it was past me even really picking up on it with myself, and that maybe my action plan could be to just phone a supporter and begin to decompress some of the stress that I'm carrying on my shoulders that I don't really talk to anybody about. So that's an example. There could be more extreme examples, but that's just the one that came to mind in the moment. So take a moment to try to think of, what are some signs that someone else might pick up on, and what your action plan would be if you knew that you were having those signs, or if someone mentioned them to you, what you might be able to do to turn things back toward wellness.
Okay, we do have some people posting. So Brittany says, it's all in my face. My supervisors and coworkers can tell when I'm not at my best or if my mind is elsewhere because of her facial expressions. When I asked, am I okay today? I then realized I need to step away and breathe, go to my closet for a timeout. Janice says, things breaking down, I'm getting physically ill, frequent extended colds, cannot get better, one illness after another. Action plan is to make a coffee date with a support person. Brittany's action plan is to take a break and maybe go outside to get some fresh air, regroup. Michelle says she tries to never let it get to that point. Her stressor should not be put into others, she prays. Sandra said that she notices when things are getting worse when she starts to lose weight, and she tries to eat more to counteract that and stay prayerful. Beatrice says, it shows on my face. I get a stress headache and I give myself a timeout for her action plan. Okay, that seems to be, oh, here we go. We had someone report being introverted, headaches, panic attacks, and being a little snappy. Tone, Rodner says tone in her emails for unresolved issues constantly.
Okay, awesome.
And her action plan is to go take a walk and talk to supervisor to see how I can relieve my workload.
Those are great. You guys are done amazing. And I know we're right at, it was right at 11:30. Now I looked up, it's 11:31. So I'm just going to show you, this is actually the end of the engagement section. So I'm just going to show you the next two. I put them side by side so you could see them quickly. So the last two parts of a RAP are the crisis and post-crisis, which usually when you're writing a RAP for work, you don't go that far. So that's why I wasn't planning to do engagement, so that works out just fine. There are other kinds of plans that we might write, like maybe a RAP for health condition, where you might move the RAP all the way into part 7 and 8. I live with a chronic health condition, for example, which is multiple sclerosis. And so I definitely have a RAP for MS, which includes a crisis plan, which, so that those are the signs, right? Everything's identify and plan. So that I identify the signs that would say, I'm beyond my ability to take care of this situation all by myself, and I need some extra help. And so in the action planning part, in the crisis plan, I identify specifically what kind of help I want. And I love that second question, what kind of help I don't want. What's not helpful? Please, no, I don't want you to do that. And who do I want involved and who do I not want involved? And so again, I just kind of love that part of the RAP plan is that, when it comes to the place where supporters are getting involved, because RAP is my plan, I get to identify what helps and what doesn't help. And of course, with the crisis plan, it's kind of not helpful unless I do share it, right? I have to share it with somebody because this is the part where I'm asking for help and a certain kind of help. And so if I don't share that with somebody, it's not that useful. But again, all that's voluntary. So, but it just kind of demonstrates a section of the plan where it's really helpful to share it. And then, of course, the post-crisis plan, identify and plan, you identify what signs would indicate to your supporters that you're past the crisis stage and you're ready to be more responsible for your own care. I talk about how some kind of the best kind of support that comes in to be by your side when you're in the crisis stage, they don't know when to quit. And so the post-crisis plan is like, look, if you see that I am able to, blah, 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 then it's time for you to back off. I'm back to being well enough to be responsible for myself now. And I'm asking you to respect me so that I can begin to become more independent and take care of my own wellness. So that's an example of post-crisis. And then, of course, in the action planning, so it's the signs first, identify and plan. So in the action planning, it's like me identifying what responsibilities I would take on for myself first. What are the things that could wait? Who are the people I want to thank for helping me through the crisis? Did I do or say anything that I want to apologize for? You know, sometimes when we go through really hard times, we're not ourselves at all, and then we do or say things that we will look back and say, I'm so sorry. So that gets you through all the parts of a wrap. Let me go to the next slide there, Kirsten, and show you that there is a free wrap app. It is literally called the Wrap app. So if you type that into your search there, it's free on iPhone and Android. It's called the Wrap app. And it's a lot more extensive than what I did with you today, but it has every section of the wrap. It has questions, and it has open-ended boxes for you to enter. And so you could literally build your own wrap on your iPhone app, and it is a secure app, so nobody would be able to access it but yourself. And go to the next slide there, please, Kirsten. Everything about wrap you can find on that website called mentalhealthrecovery.com. There's loads of information and articles and some videos you could watch, etc. Also on the DHS website, you see how unuser-friendly that long thing is. But if you just go to dhs.state.il.us, which is unfriendly enough all by itself, and type in wrap in the search engine, it will take you to the page that has all things wrap. And then, of course, there you have my email address also, and you could contact me directly if that would be helpful in any way. And if you take it to the next slide, that's just my thank you and goodbye. And I think, Kirsten, you said there's a wrap-up poll of some sort, so I'll turn it back to you.
Yes, thank you, Nanette, and I apologize to everyone for our technical difficulties that we had today, but we seem to work through them. So we stayed calm, just like we talked about in the wrap plan, and thank you for bearing with me while I fixed those audio issues, or at least found a workaround for them. And I just wanted to reiterate that today's webinar was being recorded, and the presentation slides as well as this webinar recording will be up on our website and Illinois WorkNet's website within 48 hours. And then just a reminder, if you could provide us with any feedback, we would really appreciate it when you get your survey feedback email tomorrow morning. And with that, I just want to thank you, Nanette, and thank you to all of our attendees for being so great today and participating so well. And we really appreciate it, and we hope you found this webinar valuable. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Nanette.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. And use your wrap.